Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So it's Easter week, and I thought it would be nice to prepare a dish that you could serve either as a first course before an Easter dinner, or if you're having a nice luncheon, you could serve this as a luncheon. You could also serve it as part of an Easter brunch. It's a goat cheese tart with caramelized onions, served with a cherry tomato salad and an olive tapenade. I know it sounds like it will be a lot of work, but it really isn't. The first thing that we need to do is to make our tart dough, which is very simple. You can even use your food processor, you can use your KitchenAid, or you can do it by hand. Whatever you prefer in making a tart dough. So the first thing we want to do is put in our flour. We have 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose unbleached flour that's going to go into our food processor. 1 teaspoon of diamond kosher salt, and we also need butter, which is 10 tablespoons of unsalted butter. So that's 1 stick of butter plus 2 more tablespoons. And this is unsalted, and all I did was just cut it up into pieces, which I'm going to put right here in with the flour. And then of course we need some liquid to bring it all together. We're going to use some ice water and 2 extra large egg yolks. So all you want to do is first just pulse this. I do have top here so the flour doesn't come flying out. And you just want to pulse this until the butter is more like pea size. Okay, let's check it now. Okay, so now we have nice small pieces of butter mixed in with our flour and salt. So now we can go ahead and add our liquid. In this dish, I have 2 extra large egg yolks, and I have a bowl of ice water. So we need 3 tablespoons of ice water, and of course try to get the ice cubes out of there. So here's 2 tablespoons plus 1 tablespoon. And with the machine running, we're going to just pass this through the feed tube of our mixer. And then just add our egg yolk and water all together until it all comes together. Let's put in just a little bit more ice water, about a teaspoon. There we go. Put just a little bit of flour on your work surface and bring this all together. There's a good amount of moisture. It's nice. It's not dry. You don't want your tart dough to be really dry because when you roll it out, it's just going to break and crack and you're going to have a tough time with it. Let's get that all there. And then just bring this all together. And I don't even need that flour. I can tell it's perfect, just the way it is. Oh, this looks really good. And it's not sticky, but it's also not dry. Here you can see it. It's nice. You see, it's nice and moist. It's not dry, but it's not wet either. Okay, that's perfect. And put this in the refrigerator for about an hour before we roll it out. And you could do this a day in advance also. So I'm just going to flatten this out. And there we go. And in the meantime, we can work on other parts of the dish. Let's get the rest of the components all together and assembled. So I mentioned that there is caramelized onions in the goat cheese tart, so we need to caramelize some onions. You can either use shallots, you could use a sweet onion, you could use leeks. Anything in the onion family will be delicious in this tart. So I have 1 large sweet onion and I have 2 shallots in this dish, which I just sliced fairly thinly. So I have some olive oil on the stove in a saute pan, and I'm going to turn it up now. I've had it on low so I know my oil is hot, and I will add the onions, and along with the onions I'm going to add 2 sprigs of fresh thyme from the garden and 1 bay leaf, and I'll season it with a little bit of kosher salt. So let's get our bay leaf in and our thyme, and we will throw in our onions. And what you want to do is basically saute them on low so that they don't get a lot of color, but they get very sweet and very, very tender. So let me get some salt in here. I would say about 1/2 teaspoon should be plenty. And give this a stir. Now we can turn this down. I have it on very low, and I'm going to cover it and basically sweat it for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. Then there will be some water in the bottom of the pan. We'll take the cover off and then we'll let it continue cooking. It can take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your flame and how quickly and how much water is actually in your onion. Let's make our cherry tomato salad. So I have some cherry tomatoes here, which I'm just going to slice in half. And I love the flavor of some onion in here. There's onion in the tart, so a little bit of onion here in the cherry tomato salad is also very good. So I have 1/2 shallot that I minced very finely. You don't want large pieces of onion in here. So it's just 1 basket of cherry tomatoes. Let's put, I would say, about 1 teaspoon. You don't need a lot, but you want enough to flavor your tomatoes. And then we have some fresh chives here. If you have some really good sharp scissors, it's a wonderful way to cut your chives. But if your scissors are dull, it's not going to work, and you're better off just using a knife, a sharp knife. But these scissors I save specifically for my herbs, so it's nice and sharp, and you can put as much or as little as you like. I would say a good tablespoon of fresh chives will be really nice here. Let's season it with a little bit of kosher salt and some black pepper. And this is where you want to use a good extra virgin olive oil if you have it in something like this. So I'm just going to do a little squeeze of lemon juice, and I have a very nice extra virgin olive oil from France, so we're going to use a little bit here. And then you can just taste and see how it is and just set this aside. And if you decide to make this ahead of time and refrigerate it, make sure you take it out and have it come back to room temperature. So this looks wonderful. Take a look and you can see the shallots, the chives, looks really nice. Olive tapenade can be, obviously we're going to use Kalamata olives, but you can add garlic, you could add anchovy, you could add capers, you can add even fig jam I've added to make a more complex tapenade. But you can also just use the olives, the Kalamata olives, and some extra virgin olive oil, and you get a very, very intense olive bright taste. And for a dish like this, I think it's plenty. I don't think you need to add anything to it other than that. So let's just take, it's for every cup of Kalamata olives, you would use a 1/4 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil. All right. I normally would do this in the food processor, but it's such a small amount. I just have a 1/2 cup. And I always, if you do get them pitted, I always slice them in half, because every once in a while you will find a pit in your olives, and you don't want to puree that. So I always slice it in half to make sure there are absolutely no pits. So in here I have a 1/2 cup, very small amount, because it'll be enough for us. And I'm going to add a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm just going to use an immersion bowl. Okay. Looks good. And just make sure that the olive oil is mixed in really well. So our dough has chilled, and I'm taking it out. And also the caramelized onions are done. They're more like braised onions. They have a light color to them, but you don't want too much color. But you want them fully cooked, nice and soft, and you really get the wonderful flavor of the bay leaf and the thyme, which you're going to pull out once the onions are cooked. So let me just show you what it looks like. This is what your onions look like. You see, they're nice and soft, and oh, the flavor is just perfect. So you can either do it in a large 10-inch Tart pan that has a removable bottom, or if you wanted to do it as an appetizer like we did at the restaurant, you can use this size, which is about 3.5 inches. It's almost 4 inches from the top. From the bottom, it's about 3¼ inches. Or if you wanted to do it more of a luncheon size, I would say this is 4.5 on top and about 4¼ so a little bit larger for a luncheon size. So we'll go ahead and do the appetizer size portion. All right, so there's the different size, and if you were to do the large one, you would need about 3 onions, or if you were to do, you'd get about 12 of these, and you'd get probably more 6 to 7 of this size. Okay. I have my oven at 375 degrees, and you just want a little bit of flour on your work surface. So this is just about half of the dough, and I will take 1/3 of it. I'm sure this will be enough to make 1 tart. Flatten it out a little bit, get a little flour on both sides. You don't need a lot of flour, it doesn't take much. Okay, you can roll the whole dough out too, and just make circles and just do it that way. But here I'm just going to take 1 piece of dough. It's beautiful dough, and it rolls very nicely. And you want it about 1/8 inch thick is what you're looking for. And this looks very nice, and I think that's about right where we want it. Just, there we go. Okay, so You want to actually cut the circle larger than the actual tart because you have to get the sides in. You can use a ring, you can use a small plate, anything that you need to. This ring isn't even quite large enough for this, so I'm actually going to just take a knife and go another inch outside the ring to make sure that I have enough dough here. Okay, that should be plenty. And then you just want to go in and just go around. And once your dough is in, make sure that it's all the way in the corners. Then you can just press on it to remove the excess dough, or you can roll your rolling pin right over the top. And then just use your thumb or your finger, the side of your finger, to go in and press along the sides to make sure that it's in nice and tight. And then just take a fork and go ahead and just prick the bottom. Here is the tart. And now I will refrigerate this for about 15 to 20 minutes. Let it get nice and cool. I already have a couple of them in the refrigerator already made. And the dough is nice and firm. And I've already pricked the bottom. So you just need to take a sheet pan. And you do want to line it with a piece of foil. And I recommend you buying very inexpensive foil because it tends to be more flimsy, which makes it very easy for you to go around and put it into your individual tart shells. Okay, just take some dried beans, or you can use rice, and you want to fill it, and that is so that the dough does not rise. So you have a really nice tart shell to put your filling. And we're going to bake this at 375 degrees for 15 minutes. Then you will remove the foil and the beans and let it go for another 3 to 4 minutes until you have a beautiful golden brown. And let's get these in the oven. I have 2 tart shells already baked off, and I'm just going to show you how easy it is to lift these out of the tart pan. And you can see how nice and golden the bottom is, and they are fully cooked. So let's prepare our filling. Here I have make a large tart, you're going to need 8 ounces of cream cheese and 8 ounces of goat cheese. Here I'm only cutting this in half. I'm making a small amount. Okay, so here's 4 ounces, but for a full tart pan you will need 8 ounces. And here I have some beautiful organic Montrachet goat cheese. So let's put in its equal amount, 4 ounces and 4 ounces. And by the way, you do want it nice and room temperature, nice and soft, so that it mixes together really, really well. And then we have 1 extra large egg. So this is so easy to double, quadruple, because it's all equal amounts, 4 ounces to 1 egg. So if you're going to do the whole large tart, you would need 2 extra large eggs, 8 ounces of cream cheese, 8 ounces of goat cheese. And we're also going to add a little bit, maybe about 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/8 teaspoon of either black pepper or white pepper, whatever you happen to like. Since my cheese is nice and room temperature, it mixes very beautifully. Now let's go ahead and put in our egg. this a good mix. Oh, it looks beautiful. Now you want to put a nice layer of onions on the bottom, and then we will top it with our goat cheese and bake them in the oven. Again, 375 degrees, and they will take just until everything is set. Your crust is fully cooked. It takes about 12 to 15 minutes. All right, so I have a nice layer on the bottom. And then I like to, at the restaurant we used to use the ice cream scoopers, which works really, really well. So we're just going to take a mound and set it right on top. Okay. Just use an offset spatula and go in and fill your tart shell. You want it to reach basically the top of your tart shell. I have my oven at 375. I'll check them in 12 minutes, anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes. These are 12 minutes and they look lovely. They have puffed up. Hopefully you can see that, but they've puffed up and they're set very, very nicely. They look great and they're definitely ready. Now, what's really nice also about this particular tart is that you don't want to serve it hot. You want to serve it either warm or room temperature. The flavor of the cheese really comes through that way. So you have a little leeway, which is really nice. Down one of these beautiful tarts right in the center of the plate. I really do believe this size is absolutely perfect. Okay, now let me check my tart shells. Let me just set those down there. And we can go ahead and finish plating our lovely tart. So you have your wonderful cherry tomatoes, and if you can do them a little bit in advance, it really, the onion and chives really, the shallot and chives really come through and makes lovely flavor for the cherry tomatoes. And we have our tapenade. So you can either put a nice mound of cherry tomatoes on the side of your plate. It all depends on the size of the tart. This is fairly small, so we can actually plate about, I'm going to say maybe 4 halves on the top, and then just a very, very small amount of the tapenade. If the oil has come to the top, just mix it in. And this will last in the refrigerator for a little bit, so this is nice to make ahead of time also. And once again, you could serve it either on the plate or directly on the tart, which we will do right there. And we have a lovely fresh pansy that we will put right on top of the tapenade. And I have a very small basil leaf here, which I will put right in front of the cherry tomato. And I think that looks very appetizing, and all the flavors will be delicious. So let's come around and show you our completed goat cheese tart. Make sure that it's set right in the middle of your plate. I think a glass of sparkling wine or a glass of rosé would be perfect for this tart. So bon appetit, everyone. Happy Easter to everyone. Hope you have a wonderful holiday. Take care. Bye now.